Good evening, my dear friends. I welcome you all to the Hindu and the Businessline editorial analysis on July 23rd, 2022. The rupee's vulnerable position, the weakening of the rupee, a 7% loss against the dollar, has been a lot more discussed. Today's editorial in the Hindu and a very key article in the Hindu discusses this point. The Reserve Bank of India has done all its potential ability to control this rupees fall, and the real time exchange rate value of the rupee shows that the rupee is still overvalued. The rupee had a very steep decline in 2008 and 2013. In 2013, it was a 7 months continuous decline. In 2008, it was a 20% fall. When compared to those situations, today the rupee has fallen only at 7%. The exporters are cheerful because when the dollar value is increasing, they can get more realization. However, the competitors of India, Korea, Bangladesh, and Malaysia, for them also the currencies against the dollar are declining. So, this is a very disappointing thing. When the exports of India are supposed to be favorable, the rupee fall, the currency fall against the dollar in Malaysia, Bangladesh, and Korea has stood as a very stiff competition for Indian exporters because their exports will be preferred in preference to Indian exporters. The import bills are rising, and this has led to a very adverse current account deficit situation. However, this has to be seen that dollar index is always hovering at a very high pace, and it has reached the 11% increase. A 20-year increase has happened. The dollar index is the index against a basket of currencies, six currencies all across the world, consisting of Swedish krona, then Switzerland Czech, then UK pound sterling, euro, Japanese yen, French franc. So the dollar index is continuously rising. It is imperative of Indian companies to invest, to list in London Stock Exchange, and the bonds must be listed in foreign countries. This way the foreign exchanges can be brought to India. There is the exodus of the foreign investment flows to the tune of $40 billion, which is again a cause of worry. Concomitant with the Ukraine war and the global supply chain disruption, this has led to a very difficult position for India. Then, discussing about Mr. Putin's, the Russian President Putin's visit to Tehran in Iran signifies lots of aspects. In Tehran, he met the Iranian premier and the president of Turkey, Erdogan. These three countries are well sanctioned by the West and the US. Russia and Iran faces sanctions on different counts. Russia faces sanctions by the US and the West because of its war in Ukraine, and Iran faces sanctions after its nuclear program. In 2015, the US, under the leadership of leadership of Trump, entered into a joint agreement on nuclear program, the nuclear disengagement, and it was lifted. The agreement was failed in 2018. Although, as a member of NATO, the Turkish President Erdogan criticized Russia. However, the the Turkish government was against holding sanctions by the West and the US against Russia. So these three countries, along with China, are just forming the groups of countries on whom the sanctions have been imposed. The Russian Gas Agency and Petroleum Agency has entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Iranian National Petroleum Agency. Around $40 billion signifies that how bonded the sanction facing countries are against the US and the West. Therefore, the world must look out for this potential very mighty tripartite agreement between Russia, Iran, and Turkey. Then, the question of Dravidian and the Aryan geographical differences is founded on wrong principles. There has been an attempt by many to cite that the Aryans and Dravidians differences are only geographical. However, there are many records, the historical records, the archaeological evidences suggesting that Dravidians were there since the Harappa and the Mohenjo-daro civilization. Many sites have been excavated and found that the Dravidians were there since the Harappa and Mohenjo-daro civilization, and the Dravidians' unique contribution to the language, to the culture, to the literature, the Sangam literature is widely accepted. Many modern thinkers like Sundarnar Manonmaniam Pillai and Agathiyar Pandit are some of, and the justice theory founders Mr. Nair, Dr. Nair, are some of the persons who studied very deeply about the Dravidian theory and established the fact that the Aryans and the Dravidians, there are different cultural differences, and the Dravidians are very as ancient as the Aryans are. In Aryans' invasion of the Indian subcontinent dates back to 2000 BC to 2500 BC. They are believed to have come from the European countries and settled here. So, the out of India theory about the geographical differences between Aryans and Dravidians is not going to stand, because many theories exist, pre-existing theories exist, and the Dravida Muneta Kazhagam in Tamil Nadu, with the pioneering of since the days of Annadurai, the then Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, under the learning and teaching of Periyar E.V.K. Nayana, and Mr. the former Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Karunanidhi, those have been very much vociferously trying to remove all types of superstitions from beliefs, and they're defining the Dravidian supremacy over the Indian subcontinent through scientific temper and scientific evidences. So, the out of India theory of Goalkar, which states that only the spatial differentiation between the Dravidians and the Aryans exists, does not hold good. Moving on to the business line, we have certain concerns, being the 47th GST Council's decision to impose 5% GST on packaged food items like rice, pulses, and wheat is a very concerned view, is a concerned move by the central government. The packaging involves resort lots of processes in between, after which the items reach in packets. Cleaning, then sorting, then packing, then transporting, all this come under the packaging. So there is also a differentiation made if it is purchased by the commercial enterprises, then they would be exempt from GST of 5%. So the low key home sellers and the provision stores and middle level provision stores would resort to loose selling. That is, they would not sell as a packaged item, no, in order to avoid the GST attraction on the prices. However, there is a possibility that they may be caught for evasion, tax evasion by the policeman. However, the attempt to reduce the prices of items, food items, by the provision stores would be a welcome step. Then, the present Electricity Amendment Act 2022, amending the Electricity Act 2003, there are some rumors that the deregulation of the distribution companies is not going to happen. Why? The deregulation of distribution companies and its privatization would have paved the way for moving this debt strapped electricity distribution company sector out of the 5 lakhs crores worth of debt assets and 1 lakh crore worth of debts. They would have escaped from this greater debt burden had it been privatized. However, the bill says that only the sub-licensing would be done at the local level, which would improve the service of the electricity, the provision of electricity. So, another thing which is going to happen is that the deregulation is not going to take place, already said, and then the cost effective billing will be done. The cost effective pricing of the electricity is going to come with the Electricity Amendment Bill. Then the generation companies can be directly contacted by the local people through the manufacturing companies having a requirement of more than 300 megawatts. Then the local people can choose between the distribution companies. This is going to happen with the new regulations in place. Then the linking of food processing organizations with the market is very much essential. The food processing organizations are in the form of the Section 8 companies, the charitable organizations, the cooperatives, and the trust. Among them, the cooperatives and the Section 8 companies are only the legal entities existing today. There are lots of advantages going to happen if these food processing organizations, that is, agricultural produce processing organizations, are linked to the market. One way they will have lots of market intelligence, and then they will be able to get the peer to peer lending benefits. Then they will be able to directly negotiate. Now the lots of intermediaries like stockists exist in the agricultural produce market, which makes the food processing organizations to lose their revenue. However, with the linking of the food processing organizations with the market, this can be curbed, and this lacuna can be made a very big solution. So, the linking of the food processing organizations with the market is an essential step. Friends, I have come to the conclusion of today's editorial analysis of the Hindu and the Businessline. Meet you tomorrow with some more interesting analysis on various topics appearing in the newspapers tomorrow. Till then, take care. Bye. Good night.